down here on earth where it's tough and we go through heartbreak and death and disease and all of these things, it's what builds the eyes of compassion.
I never understood it till just this last year, or this last 2 years, is that Kali loves the deepest because she's willing to rip something out of you.
The practices of opening the inner winds and opening the channels so that you can handle more energy, so that you can actually be present with the magnitude of the wondrous everything that we are.
The image of Christ on the cross is the feeling of your broken humanity. And there's even a tantric goddess called She Who Is Never Not Broken. Oh, you were saying this. Christ's last name is, Jesus' last name is not Christ, right? That there's the Christ.
Nazareth, right?
And then there's a person, exactly, Jesus of Nazareth.
Meyerstein.
But I think people get confused, right, of those two things. It's like saying Gautama and Buddha. It's like two different things.
Hello, Katie. Thank you for coming and sitting and chatting with us here today. We are not in our normal place where we held these conversations. We are up at Soham Mountain Healing Resort.
We should make a permanent shift. I'm feeling it out here.
I'd be really happy to sit out here and talk all day.
Yeah.
This is a nice place to sit and have a conversation with a new friend. Katie is here in the middle. You're like smack dab in the middle of your Panchakarma.
The middle.
So we're getting you in a slightly delirious state. So this should be an exciting conversation.
I feel like I'm on a plant medicine journey, much like an ayahuasca journey. Only the core ingredient is ghee. I feel like I'm permeated with the consciousness of butter.
Yeah,
Do you feel your inner cow?
I feel a deep love and appreciation for cows, actually. Yeah, I can. We're joking, but I really do feel it. There's so much gentleness and love, and the Divine Mother and nourishment, and yeah, this is the way to do a cleanse.
Part of the vision is that there will be cows.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have 5
around.
cows.
Yeah,
that's the number. And you know, because I'm a practitioner, so I practice Ayurveda. I can see the Panchakarma on your face. So I can really feel what you're going through. So thank you so much for joining us right in the middle.
Not just the oil.
Not just
No, you can kind of because the as you have experienced many times, but the Panchakarma is a little bit of hell in the front end. Sometimes people's gallbladder spasm and like your body just goes through quite a bit to clean out all those toxins, and so. Thank you so much. I definitely can see on your face that you're going through.
Thank you.
Panchakarma.
Yeah. No, happy to be with you all. Yeah.
Is this your first Panchakarma?
No, this is my 7th Panchakarma.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right. Yeah. And I will say, and I'm not just saying this, by far my favorite.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a special energy that you guys have created that really is what I call the healing climate, which is really about curiosity and openness and lovingness and this idea of there's nothing wrong with you that we're fixing, that you're not a broken thing that we're putting back together, but that you're this whole thing that we're just subtracting, the stuff that's getting in the way of that love and that light. And and this is just, it feels like I'm home, actually. I mean, I'm actually quite close to where I was born, so it's kind of sweet.
Where were you born?
I was born just down those mountains in Abingdon, Virginia.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
I grew up in Richmond, Virginia.
Okay.
So kind of close by. And to what you speak of, I think that there's something about this land and something about how, I don't even know how we ended up here. We were in New Mexico and then here we are in North Carolina, right in Asheville. And it just seems like the right people are just drawn here. Our people, everyone is kind, loving and inspired, and it's not a fit for everybody, but definitely we've got an awesome team that's coming together here. So glad you experienced that.
The land feels so healing. Something about the mountains. I lived in New Mexico for a couple of years. I was in New York City for 20 years before that, so I feel like everything in my life is in relationship to New York City in a way. But New Mexico feels like a land of visioning, and you can enter into kind of that like heightened vision state very easily. It's almost hard to stay out of it sometimes between the heat and the land. But here it feels like the water and the mountains, it's so nourishing and so healing that right away it felt like my body was just continuing to.
This is a very kapha place. You know, people might not think that about, but I'm from Virginia, but this land is all one, you know, and Virginia was a swamp. A lot of parts of this area were really wet and they were drained. So like the actual nature of this place is wet, you know, kapha, and stagnant, and there's a sticky quality, which, as you all know, has its ups and downs, right? Like if you want to come home and feel grounded and be in the mama vibes, like this is it. And like you said, going out west is a little bit more of the pioneer spirit and birthing energy.
When I'm out in the mountains here, if I close my eyes, like if you dropped me in some places around here, I'd think I was in Hawaii.
Agree.
It's rainforest,
Costa
so much
Rica.
of it, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
You would never think
So-
that about North Carolina.
And there's so many microclimates here. Jeremy actually lives in a rainforest. It literally, it rains there
It can
twice
be
as
pouring
much
here
where
right
I
now
live.
in my house.
And we're 15 minutes, 20 minutes apart, and it lives, so much rain. But yeah, that's one of the things I've noticed is something motherly about this area, this whole Western North Carolina area. And I noticed that people actually worship the divine feminine. And you almost can't help it because you feel so nourished here. You feel so grateful. You feel so held, you know, and that brings us to you, you know. So tell us about Shakti. You know, give us a little bit of, you know, our viewers get introduced to so many different type of spiritual lineages, you know, but we'd love to hear from you about what is Shakti and how does it play a role in your practice and your life and your mission?
Yeah. Well, Shakti means that power, that life force, and I think of this verse, Shiva Shaktya Yukto, and it talks all about the relationship between Shiva and Shakti in us, right? Consciousness and our life force, that raw embodied energy. It's raw primal energy. And in that verse I just chanted, it goes on and on to talk about how Shiva, without her, so like consciousness without her life force, without her energy, is dead, inert. But the flip side is also true, which is Shakti without Shiva is like crazy. She's too much, right? Like some of us, right, have experienced, you know, feeling a little bit of that crazy feminine energy, and that's a part of it. But in general, Shakti is really being in touch with something that can only be accessed in the present moment, which is Shiva. And so these two things, we have a school called the Shakti School, and I named it back when I was 15 years ago, and I was young and much dumber. And now I'm like, it should be called the Shiva Shakti School or the Shakti Shiva School, because they ride together, and just like men and women, we need each other in our own being. We need both of those things. And a lot of us get caught in one, right? Like we're really Shiva hardcore. We're going to meditate on emptiness, silence, watching the mind, right? Being the witness. And then we get into the Shakti, which is this deep appreciation for that which is always arising within the field of experience. And just in traditional terms, you know, women tend to have more of this, men tend to have more of the Shiva, but really we have both. And so we're attempting to kind of access both of those so that we can heal, so that we can liberate ourselves.
Have you seen the Adi Shakti artwork? Have you seen that? It's so beautiful. So, you know, you may already know, but Adi means like the primary, the first, right? And so Adi Shakti means the first Shakti. Adi Shiva means the first Shiva. And so this is the goddess that was the goddess before all other goddesses. And the artwork is so beautiful. It kind of speaks to, you should definitely look this up. We actually have one of our rooms here that's themed after Adi Shakti. I think it's the cabin. So if you bring your
I'm
puppy
coming
next
back.
time.
I'm coming to the
so
cabin is where I
you're
live
gonna go.
now.
You're gonna go into the cabin.
Yeah.
But the artwork in there is so beautiful. It's like a line that goes straight down the deity.
Yeah.
And she's called Adi Shakti, but she's got Shiva. She has Shiva painted on half her body, and she's got Shakti painted on the other. And I get goosebumps just thinking about it, because that is the yin and the yang, the total balance. And I'm sure you've heard this story, but you know, there's so many creation stories, right? I think they're so beautiful. But the one of the ones I love deeply is like Shiva sitting, you know, in deep stillness, and the Mahagunas are in total stillness. So it's avyakta, it's before manifestation, the Big Bang or whatever. So Shiva's just sitting there, and Shiva, you know, he goes into his deep state for hundreds and thousands, millions of years. And after the deep peace and the equality is like, you know, been bathed in, for a moment, his mind goes, if only I could, and he doesn't get to finish a sentence, and then Shakti just bursts out of his chest and then manifest all of creation, you know? And then you have the coming back like into his, like when the three Mahagunas are, so they're the same, like, you know, like the Shiva and Shakti, or sometimes it's like an exhale and an inhale, that Shiva is exhaling, inhaling Shakti. But I don't know, I think it's magic. I don't know, because maybe because I swim in it or something like that.
No,
so they're not different.
That story,
Yeah.
actually, we start every year in Shakti School with that story.
Okay.
But I love hearing your version of it, because no matter how many times you hear it, there's something new that I learned, and that he's actually, you know, in the version that I've learned and that I tell, he's sitting in this like perfect oneness and unity and like no guna, right? And then he has a desire, like a longing. And I think that's so touching, because it's like we all have that little urge inside of us to like go and become something else, and to not demonize that. And, you know, I grew up in a much more like fundamentalist Christian. I mean, I had a wonderful church that I grew up in, but there was a little bit of that thread of like, the worldly is bad. And so what has been so healing about Tantra is that like the very nature of the divine is that he longed to experience the everything. And including in that everything is like gallbladder spasms and like bad relationships and like all the stuff that we all do really go through in this life.
Yeah.
That's tough.
That's what I love about Tantra too, because I don't feel like it's just fundamental Christianity. I feel like
It's everything.
it's like
Everything.
everything gets
Yeah.
to that point where it's like, this body's filthy, we want to
Yeah.
escape. Like, that's like liberation is leaving the body.
Up and out.
And we talk a lot about Aurobindo. I don't know if you've read any of Sri
Yeah, for
Aurobindo,
sure.
but so much of what he talks about is divinizing
In
the
and
world
down.
around you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
up, it's
Yeah.
the ascent, the descent. It's like
Yeah.
bringing it in and everything being divinized and enjoying and celebrating
And
life.
how many people like really need that? You know, another piece that's important, I think maybe listeners will appreciate this too, is there's this idea of Shakti, the divine mother, the goddess worshiping, and we have this real sense of the feminine being related to women, and it is, but it's not. It's everyone and everything. And what's been so healing for me and for so many women on the planet is to actually have the experience of the divine father, of the divine masculine. And one of my teachers says, all of us need the maturation of the feminine and the masculine in all of us. And so I think that's really important to remember, that just because you're a woman and, you know, there's the divine feminine, but really we need both. And I think we almost need the opposites sometime of what our gender is.
100%.
That's gone pretty far in our culture, though.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that's the,
I understand. What
yeah. Solar needs, if you got solar bent, then you need lunar. And if you got a lunar bent, you need solar.
I
And that's
like
the
that,
whole,
yeah.
the whole, the nostril, you know, Chandra Veda and like Surya Veda, you know, the pranayam. I think that's the whole purpose of it. And before we move off of Shiva and Leela, I think we're kind of talking about that. You know, what I really, in one of my, you know, adventures, spiritual adventures, you know, when I was like alone and in my deep meditation, I had a question for the divine that I've held for decades now, probably held since I was like 19 or whatever the case may be. I don't understand why. Like, why the suffering? Why all this? Why the ups and downs and the earthquakes and just everything, you know? And in the ashram I was in, they said, well, in philosophy, you never ask why something is, but it is. And then you start from the point that it is, you know? So there's some philosophical, I never really bought it. I was like, yeah, whatever. And so one time in one of my deep meditative states, I had connection. And the answer that bubbled up very distinctly was that we all decided this. Like, we all decided this pre-creation to dance. You know, and Shiva, the whole symbolism of Shiva dancing, I think is just magic, right? So you have the Shiva that's sitting, and the Shiva is, I don't know if y'all know this, but he is the badass dancer, you know? And I think his dance is this Leela. His dance is this cosmic expansion, you know? So while we're here, enjoy it. Enjoy it, because, like, you know, when it's like, when everything is stable and the Mahagunas is stable, then we're just at peace and equanimity, right?
Yeah.
But kind of like the ups and the downs and Shiva dancing, or if you're from a Krishna lineage, calling it Krishna Leela, it is the divinization. It is enjoy the manifestation, because this manifestation will be like at some point, you know?
And it's so relaxing to enjoy it. When you're caught in it and you're fearful and afraid of everything and everything, your relationship to life is so different than when you can just kind of step back and be like, all right, shit's crazy right now. Let's see what's going to happen next.
Yeah, and one of the great lessons I've learned from Tantra is that it's usually the opposite of what we think it is, everything. So like, I'm really working right now in my own practice with what I find the most intolerable about myself, what I resist the most in myself, and the way I see it in other people and resist it in them, and these resistances that create ignorance and more suffering. And it's actually in the suffering, and if you think about, I'm sure you guys have had the experience, but your own life, it is usually the things that are the suffering that allow us to build the compassion. And without that suffering, we would be in the realm of the devas, right? Where they're just partying and having a great time. But like, it's down here on earth where it's tough and we go through heartbreak and death and disease and all of these things. It's what builds the eyes of compassion. I can assure you that the things that have broken my heart open the most have been actually walking into the parts of me that I fully rejected, that I found the most unsavory. And luckily, and this is in your traditions, right? There was a guide, there was an outside wise person that was able to be like, and I trusted her enough that she was like, yo, this thing that you think you're not, you totally are. And by actually opening to that thing that I'd rejected, all this love, all this compassion, all this clear seeing insight starts to arise. It's from the darkness, actually, and that's the goddess.
And golly, they say, I've learned, the last 3 years, people say this, I don't know, I keep talking about Asheville like this is the mystical place, but I think it is. It's got a little Kailash going on here, right? But so, we had Helene hit, and we had like catastrophe, and
Yeah.
just
I mean, you
been
just
through
look
hell.
over our
And
shoulders.
It's right here. I can
it's like
feel. I
all
mean, I
this-
feel it walking around.
Yeah, it's like it's all been here. But I think that they say, I never understood it till just this last year or this last 2 years, is that Kali loves the deepest because she's willing to rip something out of you, and then if it gets ripped out of you, and usually it's like suffering, usually it's betrayal, usually it's like, a flaw that causes me to really look in the mirror. And I never understood the beauty of it till recently, because at some point you just throw your hands up in the air and say, Ma,
Take
I
me.
just want you, this is it. Enough of my ego, enough of my doership. I am yours. Does that make sense? And
Yes.
humanity, if it was just like, and that is the truest bliss, because then nothing has got anything on you, like no negative karma, no experience, and even we forgive ourselves. We forgive ourselves because we
That's the
understand
big
how
part.
small we are.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
And I think once you understand that, you come to some place like this, which could seem like a torture chamber to some other people. It's like, this is what you're spending your time, or an ayahuasca ceremony, or say. But once you understand that it's like freeing you by clearing you and cleaning you, it's what else do you want to do with your time?
Very true.
I think the shadow work that can very, very easily happen on plant medicine, I think it's the same thing. I don't think it's any different. It's maybe with the volume turned up.
Yeah, I've never, and for the
quite a
record,
bit.
I've never done any type of the ayahuasca or plant medicine. And I am very clear on the fact that probably I won't in this lifetime, because I'm so sensitive and I'm so touched by the medicines that I'm receiving with her.
Right.
Suhani's in the side, by the way. My girl, right? Like, when you are more sattvic, you can actually go on deep journeys with different psychedelics, including ghee, and guess what else? Including dreams.
Right.
There's nothing more psychedelic than our own dream work. I'm a big Carl Jung. He's like one of my Maha teachers, and I mean, you can really access your whole universe without. And to each his own on the plant medicine thing. But I just want everyone to know, like, you can do it in different ways. I mean, just eating mung beans and vegetables alters
Juice
your
fasting.
your juice fast. Anything like this where you're eliminating everything that you're really tied to, like, releases a ton of insight.
Absolutely. I think that there's this one phrase that I really like, and I probably mentioned it in some of our other chats, but any excuse will do, in the sense that it could be a substance. I think watching trees sway, there's something that it kind of connects with your consciousness, and it releases something within you that frees you. Does that make sense? And so I think that the more ways that we can, that you probably heard about Ram Krishna, who was Vivekananda's teacher.
I don't know him.
Okay, so Vivekananda, he was the person who really brought yoga to the West.
Well,
So,
I'm aware of Vivekananda,
okay.
but not his teacher.
Oh, got it. Okay,
Yeah.
so he brought it all in like the Parliament of Religions, like that was like 1860 or something like that. But his teacher, so Vivekananda was on this quest to find someone who actually had experienced God. So he'd go guru to guru, and he said, "Have you seen God?" There's a famous story. And everyone's like, "Well, no, but if you did," and he was like, "I don't want to talk to you." So, and then he went to, we finally found Ramakrishna, and Ramakrishna, they thought he was this crazy man. They said Ramakrishna's this crazy man because he would just sit on this little stoop. People would walk by, and he'd see like a bird fly by. He'd be like, "Oh, the bird, the divine." And
Crying.
go into ecstasy, start crying, screaming, singing, and we're like, "What the hell's wrong with this guy?" Then he would see like donkey go by and take a shit like right on the road, right? He'd be like, "Oh, the defecation, oh, it's so beautiful." And he was
Cycles of
and it's like you see like whatever, like a prostitute, a king, an accountant, or whatever, anything. And it was like almost any excuse will do, and he would just get like blissed out. But long story short, Vivekananda went to him and said, "Have you seen God?" He goes, "That's all I see, dear. That's all I see."
Yeah.
And so Vivekananda was like, "Then this is my teacher,"
Yeah.
And I actually think that there's such a beauty and a divine vibration in everything, and all. I think that's a good thing about studying Ayurveda too, that we realize that there's a glass of wine, there's an appropriate place for tobacco. It's all holy, it's all sacred, it's all part of these divine vibrations in creation. Now, everything is not for everybody. Each person is unique and has their own. But somehow, if we could learn to just slip into that ecstasy, at the end of the word, there's no other word. But if you can learn to slip into that ecstasy, I think that is yoga. That is yoga, I think. A lot of people think it's, just Ashtanga yoga or whatever. But no, yoga is if you have ghee and it's a psychedelic for you. That sure sounds yoga to me.
And I think it's important to, when we talk about ecstasy, like people listening might think something positive, yummy, this feels great, bliss. We hear these words from, and I've been studying a lot the Tibetan tantric tradition, and there's this beautiful phrase I think you guys will like, and that is that the true raw essence of fear is joy, and the true raw essence of sadness is compassion, and the true raw essence of anger is clear seeing insight. And so that's ecstasy.
Sorry, will you say that once more?
Sure. So fear is, the raw essence of fear is joy. And the raw essence of sadness, when you deeply meditate and allow and open to it without becoming it, it turns into compassion. And the clear seeing insight is the essence of anger. And so what that really helps us understand is when we think about bliss, yogic bliss or enlightenment or ecstasy, it's actually one of my favorite definitions is A, the ability to withstand pure raw waves of energy, and two, the ability to open to all these things without centralizing around this limited sense you said, like of the ego or the self. But I think there's this misunderstanding in the yoga world that like we're gonna get to this really good place. And if we just do enough mantras and just do enough Surya Namaskars, penances, then we're going to get to this better place than this hell place that is our current experience. And like ecstasy is the complete opposite. It's actually a shift in perspective that happens only in this moment.
Absolutely.
Even if it's, I'm sitting beside my mother dying, or I'm at Soham drinking, well, you're not allowed to drink coffee, but like ginger tea, almost as good as coffee, right? And I think that's been big for me because I had a long yoga career of really trying to get somewhere,
right?
Which I think we do as young practitioners.
It's part of the just like inspiration in that.
So but you're not going, it's the irony, right? Like you're actually just learning how to open to this.
And I think
that
that's part of like the practices of opening the inner winds and opening the channels so that you can handle more energy, so that you can actually be present with the magnitude of the wondrous everything that we are.
That's really well said.
That we are.
That's here, right? And like what's getting in the way, is it in your liver, right? Is it in your mind? Is it in your heart? And that's why I'm in the middle of Panchakarma, right? And like that pulling apart so that the prana can flow.
Yeah, there's two words that really kind of ground me into what you're talking about, and that's awareness and equanimity, just those two words, right? So awareness of what? Just awareness. It could be awareness of pain, it could be awareness of fear. Just apply awareness, right? Because that automatically kind of turns me into the observer, the watcher of the movie, right? And then lust is equanimity, and that's the ecstasy, that's the peace. Because at some point, everything is just, you have these fluctuations in your mind. It's not like this I mean, sometimes the fluctuations do stop, but sometimes for most of the time they don't.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
that's
And
the
they're just
nature of
like,
life.
they're just like flowing. It's just flowing, right? And I think what happens is the peace comes from the awareness. You apply the awareness that I am not this. So you've seen all the fluctuations. And then the muscles are in the equanimity. The peace, you could see a demon, you could see fire, you could see pain and love and happiness, a joke on your best friend, it's just, I think in that realization is the freedom. It's kind of when you pop out of your body.
And maybe even being equanimous about how you don't feel equanimous.
That's true.
Right?
Exactly.
Like, it's layered.
Exactly. Feel equanimous, but not feel
I feel really annoyed right now.
Right.
And I think that's another, and I'm agreeing with you,
Yeah.
but let's take it to another level for the practitioners. It's actually that I'm seeing the way I'm not equanimous and that I can hold that, because I think there's this idea that we're going to get to a place where things feel equanimous. And that can happen. But more often, it's the realization of something that doesn't feel like that. And can you open in that space? And then duality and non-duality can coexist.
So, I mean, I think we've gotten really esoteric, but we'll run with this for a little while
sorry.
longer.
This is
No, it's me. It's me. Actually, I'm causing the problem in this whole conversation.
You are. It's definitely
I'm definitely me. So the only thing I'll say about that is that the other component of this equanimity and awareness is also accepting the human condition.
Yes.
I think because if you accept the human condition, this kind of like, maybe it's like a triumvirate. Does that make sense? The human condition is one of falling. The human condition is doing human type things. It's success and failures. It's good seasons and bad seasons. It's all of these things, right? So if I can, but then applying awareness and equanimity to that and still accepting that, I think it is a beautiful ride. Most of it turns more and more, beautiful, and even in the pain, because in your pain, you're going to call for the mother as well. Does that make sense? But we can't escape the human condition.
Christian Das tells a story of his guru, Neem Karoli Baba, saying, not one and not two. He's famous for saying all one. But he also, at one point, said not one, that it's like it's not two, but it's also not one. Like the human condition is experiencing this dance of not unity and dancing between that and holding it all in this paradox.
People that are too into unity, they're kind of weird. They're kind of a little too out there for me. Like, I want to be on the ground with you. I want to be messy with you. And what you were saying reminded me of, that's Christ. Like, the image of Christ on the cross is the feeling of your broken humanity. And there's even a tantric goddess called She Who Is Never Not Broken.
Yeah.
Oh.
And who does Christ go to? Who did he pick as his crew? The most
I was going to say...
No, the most
Satan?
broken.
No. That's Tantra.
I don't think that's gonna. No, he went to like the vagabonds and like the poor and the kind of like crustier parts of humanity.
Yeah, he was real.
That was his people.
Mm-hmm.
And Father, why have you forsaken me?
Yeah.
Like that is pinnacle. That is
That's
very
our
important
feeling.
before the shift. So that's part of the human condition. So even God, even Krishna, they're human. Krishna got shot in his Achilles and, whatever the case may be. So I think honoring the human condition, honoring the suffering.
And I think it's your patron saint of Soham that said, Dr. Ladd, enjoy your crucifixion and enjoy your resurrection. And I've really appreciated the way Dr. Ladd weaves in that Western element or the Christian element into Ayurveda. It makes it accessible for those of us that did grow up in a Christian upbringing, that it isn't this solely with all love and respect to the motherland. Like, it's not just this Indian thing.
Right.
For Indians, it's the Sanatana Dharma. It's for everybody. It's universal love. And that's what I think makes India so special, is like, when I lived in India, you'd go into these little chaiwalas or places and there would be Christ with Ganesh and oh my God, they're like, dude, we're all welcome, and like that really is just so beautiful.
I like how Yogananda talks about Christ. I don't know if you've ever read any of his writings about it, but he talks about Christ as like the combiner of East and West.
Ooh.
That Christ Jesus was from the East, he was from the Orient, and he's become the light of the West.
Wow,
and
I got chill bumps.
He's the one that was really able to weave and coming from poverty, not out of this like wealthy situation, and the spiritual light that came from that, and that he is the bridge between East and West. It's a really
Beautiful.
nice way of thinking of it, I thought.
Yeah, I love that.
I like mysticism. I love that word, like, and maybe that is a lot of oneness there. So, so Father Thomas Keating or Richard Rohr or,
Love Richard Rohr.
Sufism, Rumi. One thing, if you just pick any of it, and obviously so many mystics, I mean, like the Eastern tradition is like predominantly, I would say mystic. You can't tell. And the fact that you can't tell which lineage you're reading is beautiful. I think it's like incredibly fantastic. Or shamanism. I just went to a conference where, we had shamans talking about ether, air, fire, water, and earth. And
Ayurveda.
So how do you honor ether? And they would go
Yeah.
on and on like for a long time. How do you honor water? How do you honor fire? And I'm just like, it's mystical actually, because you're getting it down to the components of what existence is. And then you realize that it's part and parcel of me, part and parcel of my environment. So I think it all reads, feels, and experiences the same,
There's a book called The Practice of the Presence of God by a guy named Brother Lawrence, who is he worked in the kitchen of a monastery in the 1600s. He was a monk, but kind of a wild dude. But the book of his letters, it starts out with, he says, I have faith in the communion of saints. The similar experience expressed through saints of this state of unity. But there's this, you read the accounts of saints from different traditions and different cultures, and how it all reads the same, and there's so many similar experiences. He's saying, I have faith in the communion of saints, that everyone has landed in this space, and they're all kind of talking about it in a similar way.
And that makes you trust it. There's a word for it called perennial philosophies that I think it was not Joseph Campbell, but one of these other mystics.
Aldous Huxley?
It was someone else.
Coined the phrase?
No, not perennial philosophy, but there's this idea that these truths that we're talking about right now, and I think this is highly related to Ayurveda, emerge out of the tissues of the body. They emerge out of the organs. The gods are the endocrine glands. The gods are the body themselves. And so it doesn't matter if you're from India or wherever we're from, right? They will emerge. It's an emergent phenomenon. And so you have what I call these like first principles of Ayurveda, and they are shamanist. And you can find them in all of our traditions, even the Christian tradition in its roots, and even Western medicine. Most people don't know this. Western medicine has been spiritual longer than it's been mind and body are separate. This is a blip on the screen of the Greco-Roman.
Thank you, Rockefellers.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So I think
Where was that exact moment?
yeah, it's all their fault. But we're returning to these things, especially as our world becomes more culturally cohesive.
Yeah, William James, The Varieties of Religious Experience, right? I mean, that's literally, it's there. I think to experience the universe, to experience the divine is so mysterious. It's so beautiful, magnificent that it's hard to really frame it into words. Does that make sense? And so you could tell that all the cultures and lineages are just doing their best.
Well, we're talking right now, even in this conversation, not to get too esoteric, but just to kind of frame it in a way I think people will be able to appreciate. Like the three of us, I can tell, have very activated mental bodies, right? The third chakra is very alive. First chakra is physical, second chakra is emotional, third chakra is like that egoic, mental, cogitating, right? I want to think about things. And then the heart, is this place of love and then beyond, right? And so I think when we're trying to parse things from the mental body, we can feel it. It's like, yeah, we could do this all day long, but what does it feel like to actually have like a full, at least 7 dimensionality experience of life? And I think practicing with the chakras is a really powerful way of accessing this multi-dimensional level of consciousness that things don't just stay on the surface of the mental body, the intellect.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's really interesting, we're talking about, and this is probably more of your realm, but Kundalini activation. So a lot of the times it's our kind of connection to the earth, our creativity, our empowerment and intellectualization, our love, our divine speech, intuition, and transcendence. It's like a lot of times it's the beautiful tickling of all of these that kind of connect them all. So I think it's like really cool to, just like we were talking about balancing with like solar and lunar, but to balance with these spiral, and to nurture the ones and how they spin, and people get, sometimes we talk about Kundalini and chakras so much that people kind of get lost, but really the symbols, the actual psycho-emotional components of them, everyone is deeply familiar with. Does that make sense? So kind of like each one can be empowered to open the next. So
No, the chakra, there's a reason why there's a lot of new kind of clouds around Kundalini. On one level, it's as clear as day, right? The experience of Kundalini Shakti. Kundalini means the way in which we are asleep to our divinity. And Prana Shakti is the way in which we are awake to our divinity. And so anything in life that wakes you up to more of that loving awareness is Kundalini awakening. And I think there can be this false idea that you're going to have this like big explosive, and that actually is like counter indicated, right? You actually want to awaken in this titrated way. And so something like plant medicine can have deleterious effects when it goes too fast, and our consciousness, our ojas, can't hold it.
Absolutely.
So I mean, we could geek out. We should pay respect to the practice of the chakra work. Like, it is so sacred, and like, it's not something we can like deepen too much into in a podcast, right? But like, it is the primary practice that I use at this moment, right? Is working with those energies.
Do you come from, like, do you have a primary teacher? Who's your?
Yeah, this is an interesting story. So I studied Sri Vidya Tantra with a very famous teacher for over a decade. I was kind of his right-hand gal, and there was a rupture in that relationship. And I love and honor the experiences that I had, but the goddess was ready for me to move on, and I kind of had to break up with yoga. I had to break up with all the mantras. One of my teachers said, you'd been like feasting on mantras and you had to do a fast. And so I left all of the more like traditional Sri Vidya Hindu practices, and I kind of just stopped doing anything. And in that moment, truly, like, when you're ready, the teacher appears. And this is a much longer story of the disillusionment that I felt with the yoga world, and kind of breaking up with that whole thing, and going through a period of like spiritual motherlessness and spiritual fatherlessness, and like wandering alone in the desert and just praying for a teacher. And I asked somebody about a therapist that I wanted to kind of explore, a certain type of therapy, which is just shamanism, right? And I got recommended this therapist, and she lives in Hawaii, and I ended up working with her. I still work with her. Now she's more of a mentor. But what's so wild about this is that all my life I'd lived in India, traveled with many different teachers, gurus, saints. All my life, all I've wanted is a teacher, a real teacher. And so I meet this woman. She's a surfer from Hawaii, and she drinks coffee and she eats meat, and she's like not anything like yoga. She's like that tall. She like has a little surfboard. And I'm telling you, I've gotten into deeper practices with her than anything I've ever done in the more formalized Sri Vidya yoga tradition. She has a background in Buddhist Tantra as well. It's not that she's not learned, quite the contrary, but she doesn't look like what I thought my teacher would look like. And so her work is largely working with opening the chakras.
We were talking on the way over here about Vimalananda.
Yeah, the Agordi.
Yeah,
saint.
How he would drink whiskey, smoke cigarettes, race horses.
You're dying to say something.
Listen, everybody, what Kramer do I look into? This one, okay. Look at this one right here. Okay, what Katie just said, I think is a mega clue in this human existence, okay? And what I found also, it's the guru that doesn't want to be a guru.
She does not.
Does not want to. It's the guru that does not. If she's like, I don't want any followers, or he's like, I don't want any followers.
No Instagrams.
And the person, no Instagrams, does not give a shit, okay, about any of that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And they seem simple, and they're into a occupation, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And it's been like that through ancient times.
Yeah.
It's the butcher. It is the person, who is the farmer. It is Dr. Lad's guru, was just a normal, quote unquote, normal looking, normal human being, right? And I think
Yeah.
that there's magic in that.
And
you
that
know?
normal person, don't get it twisted, has done their work.
Absolutely.
Right? Like my teacher,
Yeah.
nobody is like sitting and staring into the vast expanse of ocean for hours
Right.
to learn about what the second chakra is. She's learned about the second chakra through being a surfer and being in the ocean for 40 years.
Right.
And so it's not that they're just a butcher and like, yo, I've got some insight. It's
Yeah.
like you can feel the depths of their practice, but I think a huge clue is that they are not seeking fame and fortune from it.
100%.
You know?
Without a shadow of
Not
doubt.
that there can't be like
No, there are.
famous teachers that are wonderful.
No, but I would say, just contemplate that. I think it's
Yeah.
important to. And another thing you talked about, I've been crushed 3 times, at least, been member of a couple of cults. No,
Yay!
I'm just
You're my brother. You're my brother.
so I always tell people, like most of my friends now, I'm just, because I'm older now, so I'm
Yeah.
just like, if they haven't been part of at least 1 or 2 cults, I don't even
And
want them
gotten
as
out.
friends.
Let's hope.
If you're on cult number 1, it's like, dude, get the hell out of here. It's like, because you got to become a
back in 5
fanatic.
years.
You got to think you're right about everything, and then all that crap's got to get burned down, right? And so any fanatic about anything, I'm kind of like, I'm not sure, So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but part of it is, I think part of spiritual evolution is having my beliefs burn down.
Annihilated.
Burn it
Yeah.
down
It's
to
called
the ground.
the spaghettification of the ego can only happen through having your most sacred cows ripped away from you.
They must be slayed.
Losing my first teacher, I idolized him, I loved him, and he
Yeah.
was a father figure
Yeah.
for me. And then I found out, oh my God, he's just a regular dude with so many flaws and faults, just like I have. I'm not saying I'm
100%.
better, right? Well, maybe a little bit, but but I think we have to go through those. And I think it's important too, we have 600 people in the Shakti School, and they're like, I want to say this out loud because I think this gets buried in the conversation amongst gurus and power, and this is we could do a 3-hour podcast on it, but when you're in the seat of the teacher, there's also the illusionment of the student projecting themselves upon you. It's a dual relationship, right?
Yeah.
Where the student can become enamored with the image that they place upon. And so I think it's a good remembrance that we should all remember that everybody here is a human being, right? There are some Maha beings on the planet, but 99.9% of us are just messy MFers, right?
Yeah.
Just trying to do our best. And so even your best teachers, my beloved teacher, sometimes I'm like, girl, you need to clean out your garage. Let me help you. She's got her things, right? And I
Right.
think students can become very enamored with the idea of a perfect being that's going to come to save you. And I also don't think that exists.
Right. Yeah, it's the human condition.
Yeah, we want a savior.
Yeah.
We do. And
Yeah.
I would love a prince to come and sweep me up, just putting that out there. But we have these kind of projections that we have to be aware of on both sides of the spectrum.
Yep.
And I think any real teacher is pointing to the teacher inside of you.
100%.
If they're not doing that, it's another good sign. to walk away.
100%.
If they're
And
not,
sense of humor we were talking about before, being funny.
100%. And freedom, I think that is so simple. It's like when you're part of this is so controversial. I think we're going to piss people off. Who cares?
Well, we're 3 tantrics.
Yeah. So who cares? So I think that if you're on a path, I think in the beginning, as you figure out the strings of the instrument yourself, you understand yourself, you need someone to point all those things out. But are you becoming more and more constrained, or are you feeling more and more free?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Are you more judgmental? Are you less judgmental?
Are you more dependent on your teacher
Are you
or less?
codependent?
Yeah,
Dependent?
codependent.
And I think those are just important things because no teacher is going to want you to be codependent.
Right.
no good teacher.
No good.
Well said.
And so I think that that's really, really, really important, and
Yeah.
maybe that's a litmus test, something to contemplate, journal about, meditate about.
But also, Hari Om, the teacher,
Yeah.
is so wonderful to have
Yeah.
someone like I've had in my life look at you through the eyes of compassion and through trust built up through a one-on-one loving relationship, whether it could be a therapist.
Yeah.
I really think a lot of the world's greatest teachers right now are just those who are down in the trenches holding space with people's real pain and suffering.
Absolutely.
That can be your great ally and your great
Yeah.
teacher. And having someone who, isn't trying to sleep with you or take
Yeah.
your money all the time
Right.
and keep you codependent, that can actually call you out on your blind spots
Right.
through love is the greatest gift on this planet that you can have. And you've got to also be willing.
Yeah.
That's a huge part of it.
I'm curious your process of moving more? It seems like you play a teacher role in your school.
Sure.
What has that been for you to kind of make that move from?
I've been teaching since way too young, probably. I've been a teacher since coming out. When my mom has these little videos of me with like the thickest hillbilly accent, and I'm like, "Mama, I'm your mama, and you're my little girl." You know, like I've had that karma, you know, in me, or dharma in me for a really long time. I feel very compelled to share what I've been blessed to have learned and to alleviate suffering. And nothing is, as you all know, like more beautiful than helping someone overcome something challenging. So I do hold a lot of that teacher energy for sure, but I think also I try all of the time to make it super clear that I'm half-baked in the oven myself. Like I'm very upfront about my flaws and the number of ex-boyfriends I've had. You know, like I'm a human being with my hands up, like truly. And honestly though, the more I'm really, really real about it without being TMI, I think you have to hold the seat of the teacher and not be too much. But the more I'm just honest about my own life, the more students want to talk to you and come, because they're like, oh, I don't have to be perfect to be a part of this.
Yeah, I've found the exact same thing. It's, first of all, you kind of don't want any type of mantle per se, and then I'm so flawed on a daily basis. I'm flawed yesterday. I'm flawed today. I was
Right.
flawed 30 minutes ago. Does that make sense? And I think it alleviates the pressure saying that I'm not a teacher, but I surely give a shit about my spiritual evolution and yours
I'm
and
a
ours
friend.
together.
Yeah.
Does that
I
make
love
sense?
that.
Can we do it together?
I love that.
You know, and I'm obsessed with it. I
But you
want to
know
be
what?
better at it. Yeah.
Just reflecting this, because you
No.
and I know each other so well, like, but you are a teacher, you know, and you really have the Bach, you know, the gift of the voice. You really have that. And so I think honoring, like, God has given me certain gifts and you certain gifts and all of us certain gifts that we should utilize and not shy away also from proclaiming, like, this is a gift from God to be able to have speech and help others. So I do think also there's a role for standing in the role of the teacher, because it allows the student to be able to relax. It's like the Shiva Shakti, right? I'm going to hold the space for you so that you can let things come through. It's just like a good therapist. And then guess what? We could swap roles maybe.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Me and Jeremy have this really dear friend, and we have to get her on
We talk about her in every episode.
Talk about her. We got to get her out.
Wow, she must be amazing.
She's our spiritual therapist.
Okay.
And she's helped me, you know, quite a bit. We do a lot of intense breath work. I think she does a lot of the same kriyas with you. And
She's again one of those people that sounds like your surfing teacher.
Doesn't
yeah,
want
she's
anything.
just like that.
Yeah,
no.
yeah.
And she was like, I think she would never go on a podcast. I think last time she told me she was like just for you and Jeremy, because she loves us and we love her.
Yeah.
And she's like a
Wow,
sister.
I want to hear that podcast.
Yeah. No, she's incredible. She's so wise.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that always hit me, I told her after my first session, she said, I said, thank you so much for helping me heal. You know, I'm just I have a deep amount of gratitude to you. She was like, you're helping me heal, and you're going to help me heal quite a lot over our friendship, you know? And I was just like, it was such a beautiful, like, response, you know? And I think that, and that's also the importance of, and I know the word tribe gets, you know, whatever judgment, but like tribe or family or community, it's like we're in it together, you know? And I think that's like mission critical, that we are each other's teachers. And yes, luckily Dr. Ladd, you know, when I graduated, I'd only studied with him 2 years, and he asked me, he said, would you teach these 2 classes? And it was Pulse and Jyotish, which are just very esoteric, you know, to like tap into. I told him, like, Dr. Ladd, you know so many other, you know, it's like some of the best Jyotishes in the world, and you know, so many of your old students have been with you for so long. I was like, I told him, why would you ask me? I was like, just have one of them teach. He was like, no, I want you to teach. And I said, okay, will you think about it for a week? And then if you still want me to teach, you know, a week from now, then I'll do it. And he's like, yeah, okay.
I love you told Dr. Ladd, you need to sleep on this.
And I was freaked out because I was just a student, right? I was just graduating. And I was like, wait, Dr. Ladd, give yourself a week. And, you know,
Yeah.
And then a week later, I saw him point at me and he said, came over, he was like, I thought about it for a week. And he goes, I want you to teach.
Right.
And I think it catapulted me into this just beautiful realm of seva and having to be humble, because when you are a new teacher, sometimes people in your class may have been studying for years the same topic that you're teaching. It just allows for me to understand, hey, look, I just want to be a vessel for you, you know, Divine Mother, or whatever words people are going to use. And it kind of forced me to kind of learn that.
I want you to
be with
come
that.
teach in Shakti and her.
Yeah.
Well, I want it on camera. Will you be a guest teacher at
Absolutely.
Shakti?
Absolutely, I will. I love Shakti.
I mean, any man that sits here and says that you want to be a vessel of the Divine Mother and the Shakti, you're welcome in my club. Like, yes, please. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's on camera.
Yeah.
Now it's official.
So what kind of projects are you working on, or what kind of things are interesting?
Well, truly not much. I just finished a book that just came out called Glowworthy, and it's about what we're talking about, trying to make it palatable and digestible for people that might not be familiar with these esoteric concepts. So it's a book basically on energy, and then I wrote a book before on Ayurveda, and in it we actually talk about Dr. Ladd in our school as our grandfather. He doesn't even know me yet. And like, he's just been such an influence on my life, and in our school we use his textbooks, and so I fell in love with Ayurveda, but then I realized it was really hard for me to grasp the way that it was being taught to me as someone that, you know, is from here, that had no idea. But in terms of what I'm working on now, I actually have a new book that I'm working on that I've just started working on, so that a couple of them will come out, but I'll just say it's about Jesus, about Christ, and kind of reintegrating Christ and my experience, you know, growing up in that energy and kind of really rejecting it as like an 18-year-old, and then coming back to it. You will appreciate this story. I was living in India with A.G. Mohan, who's one of Krishnamacharya's students, and he said to me, Katie, you should go home, and you've been with me enough. You have to go home. And I learned Ayurveda first from him and Indra, his wife, and he said, go home and worship the gods of your ancestors. And I was like, no, I want your gods. Like, your gods are cool, and you have goddesses and all this. And so eventually I listened to him, and I started to reconnect. It actually occurred through a very intense tantric meditation that Christ came back to me. And the energy was just so profound that I was able to work with that again. So I wanna write a book about Jesus for wild women and men.
Are you a Martin Shaw fan? Do you know Martin Shaw?
I don't know.
You should investigate Martin Shaw.
Okay.
He's a mythologist and storyteller and kind of a wild guy. He's a British
We're gonna
man.
have to take notes after.
Oh, this guy,
the podcast.
Jeremy, he's notorious for this. He said, I will never let Jeremy in the office across the hall from me.
I want to work here. Can I
4
have
or
a job?
5, yeah, definitely. Come on down. So we have 5 days a week. Jeremy was like, do you know so-and-so? And I'm like, no. And I was like, oh, you don't? And I was like, so
Right,
he just like, he knows so many
Your
people.
Amazon cart's like filling
Yeah,
up.
it's like all Jeremy like creates my reading and my
Jeremy,
podcast
can
list.
we be friends?
I
I need
hope
to
so,
text.
yeah.
You can text me the books.
So Martin Shaw.
Yeah.
He's been telling stories and fairy tales for decades, and he's beloved. And two or 3 years ago, he was on a silent retreat in the woods, and he was basically struck by Christ, is the way he describes it.
That makes me
to
cry.
where he like almost went unconscious.
Yeah.
And he woke up, and all he could think about was Jesus. So he made a sharp turn in his storytelling life and pissed a lot of people off who think he's gone crazy, that now all he wants to do is talk about Christ. And he talks about Christ as this wild druid. The way he talks about Jesus is the most beautiful, fun, inspiring. He talks about, how did we neuter this wild man? Like, how did this wild spirit get put into this proper little cold box that how most people think of it? Are you watching The Chosen?
No, I need to take.
I'm on a big.
My wife's
I'm on a
almost
big,
finished it.
I'm on a big Christ
is
journey.
this a
Jesus.
Netflix or something?
It's a Prime, right?
It's on
Okay.
Amazon Prime.
Is it about Jesus?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like they're on the fifth season right now, where they really expand the life of Jesus and his disciples. And sometimes it's a little soap opera-y, and sometimes
Love
it's
it.
like darshan.
I mean,
There's
the
moments
energy of Christ, though. What's so interesting is this versatility. Like it's like all the gods and goddesses that can be in one, in a way. And yeah, as you were talking about it, I literally felt it. And Christ lives in these mountains. I was telling you, these, you know, I'm from the Appalachia and the hillbilly culture of Christ. It has its own flavor, just like the gods and goddesses of India. But the energetic of Christ is also like the most loving, savior. It is like this energy that can come in, and no matter your quote sin, like that feeling of your humanity and missing the mark, which is the original meaning of that word, like Christ is this like honey golden energy that just takes it on. I mean, now as I'm saying that, I'm like, it's ghee. That is ghee. And Edgar Casey talked about Christ consciousness as castor oil. You're my best friend. You knew that. So I think, there's a lot of mysticism in this threesome right here.
Yeah. One thing, I'm not sure, maybe you'd be the right person to talk to about this, is that, I've heard many places that there's kind of like a lineage of Mary Magdalene, which was really focused on mysticism, and then there was a different book that was written, but it's not really, included in the Bible. I forget the
Gospel of Mary, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So if you're familiar with that, you mind talking a little bit about that?
I'm actually not super familiar with it. I used to be a little bit more into that, and then I just got totally into this other thing. But I mean, the way that I've experienced these energies is that they come to you, right? And that Mary energy is the counterpart to, it's like the Shiva Shakti thing. And so I don't experience it as much as a person or an image, but more as the Sophia energy, as that Shakti that rides alongside the counterpart.
I mean, there's some people that think that he didn't die on the cross and then he went and lived a whole life and had family and has a lineage with Mary Magdalene, that there was like a whole nother...
Yeah, I've heard that as well.
Well, I would understand. I mean, the whole... So there's the person.
And there's the light.
And then there's the energetic, right? Like you were saying, this Christ's last name is... Jesus' last name is not Christ, right? That there's the Christ.
It's Nazareth, right?
And then there's the person. Exactly. Jesus of Nazareth.
Meyerstein.
But I think people get confused, right, of those two things. It's like saying Gautama and Buddha. It's like two different things. And I think the whole point is that we all have this capacity to awaken that and to receive it inside ourselves.
The Christed light.
Exactly. Yeah.
My wife and I, it's really, I wish she was here. She would have been perfect for this pod. We got to have her on. We got to have her on one side. So, and your wife too. We should have both our wives on here. So,
maybe not together though.
Or maybe. We probably together. That's some divine Shakti there. But I don't know. I'm really kind of contemplating what you're talking about, because me and her in some of our deepest spiritual state, we spend, 3 times a year minimum, we rent a cabin and we spend on it. We don't talk to each other for the full week or 10 days. And, I'll cook one day, she'll cook one day, I'll cook one day, she'll cook one day. And we just kind of meditate. We have no TV, no phones, and we leave books. Whatever books are deeply inspiring us, we like 4 or 5 books in the cabin. So we pick them up, we'll meditate, we'll go for a walk. And so in some of our immersive experiences, kind of out of nowhere almost, is like, we've had very deep experiences with Jesus, and my wife more so than I. Mine was just the last time we did a particular ceremony, but she, for multiple ceremonies now, she has really felt this deep connection. I wonder what you're saying is like maybe it is the land
It's
or
exactly.
whatever's going on. Yeah.
When you go to India, your gods and goddesses, Robert Svoboda, Agora's student, he talks a lot about this. There are gods and goddesses in these mountains, and although Christ, the practice of Christ consciousness might be indigenous to this place, like it has been instilled in these hills for hundreds of years through my ancestors who were Christians, and I really do want to just honor and bow to that lineage that often, and especially in the United States, the people who get the least amount of love in this country and the most amount of hate are the Hicks and the hillbillies, and those people really have been holding that loving. We have a couple here from New York, and they said something so beautiful. They said, we're driving down from New York City and we stopped at Virginia, and we were just so amazed at the way that how well kept these little trailer parks and little houses and little shacks of these people. There's a quality of care and sweetness and simplicity and wisdom that lives in those people that have been worshiping Jesus in their own way for hundreds of years.
To be here during the aftermath of the hurricane was pretty profound experience. it was the church people
Yes, sir.
that were coming out and taking care of everyone. We had some of our good friends.
Yeah.
Their house was destroyed. They had water, 3 feet high. We were at their house ripping out drywall and floorboards trying to save the shell. And pickup truck pulls up. Somebody had come from Georgia, 2 dudes that didn't know each other. One was from Georgia and one was from South Carolina. They just came out and were like, how can we help?
Yeah.
Like, we were dirty, and they were just going house to house.
Yeah, and in that moment, did you care who they got down with? No.
When they said, like, can we pray together?
Oh, God, that's
I said,
awesome.
Fuck, yes, we
Yes,
can.
we can. I love that story. Yeah,
Yeah.
same.
So many stories.
So
And
many stories.
That's who was here.
That's who was here.
There was nobody else
The
here.
government wasn't here.
There wasn't a
Fear
government.
wasn't
There was
here.
politics.
I'm getting
there was
chilled up.
this.
I know.
There was- that's really who's.
Don't
you
get
know,
me started.
we had a bunch of people, get on with their 4-wheelers. They
Yeah.
had like a trailer with like 3 or 4 4-wheelers on them.
Yeah.
They just get off and they were going like driveway to driveway, chainsaws, water, everything. It was beautiful. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you,
Billy
Appalachian
Christian.
Thank
people.
you, rednecks.
Yeah,
We
thank you.
love you guys.
Thank
We
you,
love
my
y'all.
lineage carriers.
Come do a Panchakarma.
Yeah.
The
Can
other
you
thing I was
imagine?
also going to say, I feel like there's something about the land that Christ energy comes up, and I also feel like there's a wave in time. Like, it kind of goes in,
More
in
than this
waves
land.
and times.
Yeah, for
And I
sure.
feel like there's something right now where that energy is rising
Yeah.
up with everything that's going on
Well,
in
I
the
think
world.
we're in a moment where people are realizing that materialism did not work out well. The 80s and 90s turned into this, and technology is not bringing us to the place that we want to go, especially now with AI. We're more connected to our devices and less connected to the divine. And I think statistically we're seeing a resurgence in people going to church and in people going and doing spiritual practice. And I think, for our communities as well, like there's an upswell of people that want to have some kind of connection to some kind of tradition. And we can talk about all the faults and flaws of all of our collective traditions. We've already sideways mentioned like bad gurus, and I grew up in the Christian church, and everyone was going to hell, and that's not cool. But like once you let go of that, which they are, in many traditions now, I think we're evolving our ritualistic institutions to the next level, and I think that's going to help a lot of our young people. Can you imagine? We didn't live that, but they're on Instagram as children, and so I think that, and we're seeing this, the generation Alpha are actually rejecting social media. They're actually reading books more than their generation Millennial or Gen Zers. They're actually realizing, oh my God, they really messed this up.
I feel like the new rebellion is going
reading
away
books.
from all that shit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It went so far that
Yeah.
it has to kind of swing back.
And that's great.
I think it's absolutely needed because
Yeah.
God, then we're going to...
I'm not going to get into this whole like what's going to happen to the world type situation, but I'm really happy to hear that. I hadn't
Yeah.
heard what you were saying.
Yeah.
I feel it in myself. I kind of feel that I heard these shamans speak at this conference, and it touched me because like what they were saying was important. I felt like so much of my life I lived in contrary to that. Like if you look at like the rat race, what do
Yeah.
people think of you? What kind of degree do you have? What kind of
Yeah.
money do you have? I'm like, oh shit, what have we done? Like, what have we done to humanity? Like you were so disconnected from our air, from our water. We're so disconnected from the animals, our farms, And I'm really, another cool thing about Asheville is there's so many people that are like deeply aware of that, and people are starting to form their own communities and like how they're raising their children and stuff like that. So it's been really beautiful. But I look at it within myself. I'm a product. I was born in 1975, so I grew up in the 80s and the 90s, and that was kind of like the heyday of materialism and building all of that. And it's been a big part of who I am and what part of my journey has been. Does that make sense? And so I'm glad I went through it.
And I feel like
pray
in
for
your
everybody.
case, I feel like you've learned a lot of you've taken a lot of the positive side of that.
Yeah.
You're a child of immigrants.
Yeah.
You've have a sense of responsible business and entrepreneurship and wealth and how to deal with money in a beautiful and responsible way, which I think is lost.
And it's not either or. I think, we do this mudra at the start of every year in Shakti School, and it just comes back over and over where the mind really wants to permeate into one side and deviate. And I think there's a way to hold both this shamanic appreciation and I so before, no one knows this, but before I was working in
We won't tell anyone.
no one knows this. It's a big secret. In case you've fallen asleep, podcasters, listen up. I worked in AI before anyone knew what AI was. And I make the joke, I went from AI to Ayurveda intelligence. But I helped...
Ayurvedic Institute.
The Ayurveda
Everyone here
Institute.
is constantly confused what
AI
AI
AI for us, I really.
It's funny, but so I worked in this think tank in the south of Spain. I lived in Spain for 8 years, and they were like some of the original creators of the first quantitative predictive model using AI on the stock market. And all these guys from MIT like brought me in to teach the computers how to feel emotions because they were like sort of those like Asperger's guys, you know? And like they were brilliant, and it's where I first learned about Hinduism and Buddhism because these men studied the mind, right? So it was an amazing experience, also crazy, and there's a shadow story to this. But one day in the memoir, maybe I'll tell it. But my point with all this is to say, Chat GPT is incredible. It's the culmination of what all of these guys who have good hearts mostly are working on. I met them, I was with them. I know the people in these places that are creating this, but they don't understand that they think they're creating intelligence when they're only licking the surface of human potential consciousness. And that's where I don't have any fear about AI, because it's just one tiny sliver of the way the mind deduces reality and makes predictions.
Right.
But I do think it's incredible and it's wonderful. And it's also not going to be your boyfriend.
Right.
You know? Don't get an AI boyfriend.
Hopefully.
Or maybe it is. Fair enough. But I don't think
For
it can
some.
replace the real thing.
I think that even if now the whole thing's gonna go off the rails.
Let's go.
Even
loving it.
even if you have an AI boyfriend or a girlfriend, at some point, and there's a lot of this that's kind of being out there
I never
right now.
thought we'd say this
that-
phrase.
Yeah. I think what's going to happen is that people at some point are going to again, it was part of the human condition.
Yeah, we
the human
have to
condition was like, okay,
experience
I had this AI boyfriend. Okay, where did it leave you? You know, like where did you end up?
I might get one if it doesn't turn around soon.
But you can turn it off at least. So one of the things is that I think people are going to look at trees differently. They're going to look at consciousness differently, because you can have the world of AI and
You
then
can value
you're going to
it
be
more.
lost in it for so long that I think the trees and the sun and the clouds are going to be palpably more magical.
I agree.
You know, I think there's going to be a reaction to
Yeah,
it.
thank you for saying what I
yeah.
was challenged to say.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
We're going to love it even more.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we'll lose some people.
Yeah,
I mean, that's part of it
that's
too. I feel
that's
like,
Kali. Some of us are getting eaten,
Yeah.
and maybe we'll come back.
Is that a good place to stop?
I
Maybe
think so.
some people will come back.
Some of us are getting eaten.
Hey, at least we
Maybe
had
we'll
fun.
come back.
Our whole thing when we started this thing was that, hey, look, we just make this an excuse that me and him sit down.
Yeah.
And anybody interesting that we want to talk to.
Yeah.
That we'd
Well,
like to
I
talk
have
to.
to
So this
say,
was a
I don't want that to be the
success.
closing, because I need to say this.
Okay.
First of all, listeners, dear watchers, I've never been interviewed by two men, and that I actually got a word in with two. So this is actually like such a testament to the loving consciousness, and you guys have given me the space to speak, and that is rare, and I'm so grateful. And secondly, you didn't tell me what you were going to say about how you first met me. Or was that intentional?
I don't know if we should say this, but we'll say it. So,
Oh no, did I bring up?
Jeremy.
Is it not?
So-
Is it naughty?
so Jeremy, like before we decide we're going to sit down and interview someone, Jeremy goes on their Instagram and looks at all the people that they follow. I was like, yeah, we'll talk to this
I look at the
person. So-
first
Wow.
wave of who they follow.
That's
Yeah.
interesting.
to just
yeah,
have a
and
sense.
it works.
I don't even. Okay, I don't even know who I follow.
Yeah.
You passed the test. That's
I
why we're
Pass the
here.
test.
I rarely use Instagram,
Yeah.
but yeah,
But if y'all see who Jeremy and I follow, you would learn a lot.
I'm
about
gonna
us.
go. I'm gonna go follow who they follow.
We already follow the same people.
Yeah, well, there's enough
Great.
overlap of key thought
People.
Yeah.
waves.
Are you
that
happy that we did this?
I
Oh,
think this has
yeah.
been
Yeah.
really fun.
You're
This is
awesome.
Yeah.
Actually, a good way to end this is like, we usually give a prayer to somebody that we have a prayer for you that, may you be successful May you be blessed with prosperity. May you do good work, you know.
Thank you.
Yeah, may you have wind in your sails. So,
Thank you,
so much
friend.
love and light to you.
Thank you,
And
likewise.
may you have all the blessings to be successful because you're doing good stuff.
Thank
so.
you. I feel like I feel like I found a home for me. I have my own school, but to come here and get to be a student and held in your arms, this is going to be a new home for me. I can assure you. I'll be showing up again with my Shakti girls, and they're great.
Absolutely. We'd love to have you. However we can support you, you know, we're here. So
I will say I'm looking forward to your Jesus book and what you uncover. I feel like the people who've gone deep in the Eastern traditions, I find fascinating when they go into the Christ tradition, how that all kind of weaves together and shines. So I'll be looking forward to that.
Yeah.
I do have one more thing. I guess we can edit this out if we want to. But it was I didn't meet Father Thomas Keating in person, but I got exposed to him in the very early 2000s. And my teacher was of Eastern tradition. He was a Marathi man from Mumbai. And I was still in love with him deeply. He left his body in 2003. After I lost him, I listened to many Buddhist teachers. I did a lot of Vipassana meditation. I love Goenkaji. And the person I felt most sounded like my teacher was Father Thomas Keating, you know, and he's a Jesuit priest in the middle of nowhere, doesn't want to be anyone's guru, doesn't want a following. Because I always thought, man, if only the world, you know, could listen to this man of how he talks to Christianity, how the world would be different. So I think, you know, you putting a book out there and with that type of vibe, I think it's really important. So
Well, I'll have to get all your book recommendations before you go. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you guys for having me.
All right.
Thank you all.
Enjoy your herbal tea enemas, which are coming. That level of psychedelics are on its way. So.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Take care.